Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Always.
Awesome. So today we're going to be diving into Bitcoin,
Okay.
but specifically, we're going to be looking at its potential as like a reserve asset.
Gotcha.
And we've got this document. It's called Metin Yapıştırıldı. It's Turkish.
Huh.
Yeah, it means pasted text. Kind of funny title.
Yeah, simple.
But it's got some really interesting stuff in here, especially about this company, Hut 8. They're doing some pretty wild things with Bitcoin that caught our eye.
Yeah, Hut 8, they're a big deal in the crypto mining world, and they just dropped a cool $100 million on Bitcoin.
Whoa, 100 million. That's serious cash.
Yeah, it pushes their total Bitcoin stash over $1 billion now.
$1 billion. Okay, so clearly they're pretty confident about Bitcoin.
Right.
I mean, what's the big deal here? What does it mean when a company like that puts so much faith in Bitcoin?
It's a really strong signal. I mean, you got to think about what a reserve asset is, right?
Right.
Like traditionally, countries use things like gold or U.S. dollars as a safe haven for their wealth.
Right.
So what Hut 8 is doing is basically saying they see Bitcoin kind of playing that same role, but in the digital age, you know?
So they're saying Bitcoin is like digital gold.
Kinda, yeah. Like a safe bet in a crazy world.
Interesting. And their CEO, Asher Janut, he actually said that Bitcoin is a fundamental component of their treasury strategy.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? Like, how do you put Bitcoin into your treasury strategy?
Okay, so traditionally, a company's treasury strategy is all about, managing their money,
Right.
making sure they have enough cash on hand, using things like bonds and foreign currencies to minimize risk. But by adding Bitcoin into the mix, Hut 8's basically diversifying. They're looking beyond the usual stuff and betting on Bitcoin as a way to hold value.
So like a hedge against all the crazy economic stuff happening.
Exactly, especially with all the talk about inflation and all that.
Right. And you can't talk about Bitcoin without talking about its limited supply. I mean, everyone's always talking about that 21 million Bitcoin cap.
Right.
BlackRock even did a whole video about it. But can that limit ever change?
Yeah.
Like, could they just decide to make more Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, technically, I guess you could change the code, but that would kind of go against the whole point of Bitcoin.
How so?
Well, one of the big appeals of Bitcoin is that it's decentralized.
Right.
Nobody controls it, and it's immutable.
Right.
You can't just change the rules on a whim, If you start messing with the supply limit, you're basically creating a whole new token.
So it wouldn't even really be Bitcoin anymore.
Pretty much, yeah. It'd be like a company suddenly deciding to issue a whole new type of stock.
Right.
Sure, they could do it, but it would totally change what people originally invested in.
That makes sense. And it would probably make people pretty nervous.
Definitely.
Like, imagine if a government just decided to print unlimited amounts of its currency.
Yeah.
Chaos, right.
It would destroy the value of the currency. And that's kind of the beauty of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
It's scarce. You can't just create more out of thin air.
Yeah.
And that's a huge draw for investors.
Especially the ones who are worried about inflation and stuff.
Exactly. They see Bitcoin as a way to protect their wealth.
So are other companies doing what Hut 8 is doing? Is this like a trend we're seeing?
Oh, absolutely. Hut 8 is making a big splash, but they're not alone.
Okay.
You've got companies like MicroStrategy. They've been buying up a ton of Bitcoin. They see it as a much better long-term bet than just holding cash.
Interesting. So what about the government? What do they think of all this?
That's where things get a little tricky.
How so?
Well, the whole regulatory landscape for crypto, especially Bitcoin, it's still kind of in flux. Some countries are all for it. They're setting up clear rules for how to use it, how to trade it, but others they're more cautious.
Why?
Well, they're worried about things like money laundering,
Right.
market volatility, all of that.
So it sounds like it's kind of risky for companies right now.
Yeah, there's definitely some uncertainty there.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of folks argue that this is just part of the growing pains,
Right.
Bitcoin is still pretty new. And eventually, things will settle down, clear regulations will emerge, and that'll make Bitcoin even more legitimate as a reserve asset.
So what's the big picture here? What does the future hold for Bitcoin as this reserve asset?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
I don't think anyone has a crystal ball, It's too early to say for sure if it'll be as big as gold or the US dollar.
Right.
But the fact that so many big investors are taking it seriously, and the fact that governments are are working on regulations, it definitely says something.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about. Like this thing that started out as this kind of underground cypherpunk thing
Right.
is now being talked about as a potential cornerstone of the entire financial system. It's mind-blowing.
Well, this has been a truly fascinating deep dive. Thanks for breaking it all down for us.
Anytime. It's an exciting space to watch. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Me neither. And for everyone listening, if this got you thinking, I encourage you to do some more research. The world of Bitcoin is always changing, so stay curious and keep learning. Until next time.
See you, bye.